Welcome back to part 2 of our Python rock, paper, scissors for 2020 in the spring. And this is the new version that I was working on this semester. And a couple things here that we're going to do in this one is, instead of, if you notice, there's no checkpoints function being run here after every if and elif. And again, some of these here, if this says if, that could be if, or it could also be an elif. I'm not sure what would work better. We'd almost have to test it. But these could all be elifs, so I'm going to put this back because that's the way I had it on the original one. Unless there's a reason to change it, I'll keep it like that. So we have all elifs, and then at the end, there's an if and an else. And this part here is the part that we had in the function for that checkpoints function. We're just putting the same thing here. We're just saying if c points equals 3, or if u points equals 3, then we're going to break it. And also this thing we're going to take out too, because we don't want to keep rerunning the function. We could just put a continue here, because the reason we're going to put a continue here is because we actually made a while loop. So this is just if they don't enter something, it'll go back up to the beginning. And the beginning, instead of just playing the function, we put a while loop in the function. So notice everything is kind of indented 3 levels. In some cases, they're indented 4 levels. You have to keep your same indentation structure, but everything's indented inside the function definition. And a couple things here that we're going to move around a little bit. I'm going to take this out of here. We don't need this anymore because I'm going to try to put this in here. I'm going to try to assign the points in here. So I'm going to cut these out of here, and I'm going to put them before the loop. And I'll tab my loop back over, and I'll tab these over. And I'm putting these before the loop so that when it loops through, it's not going to go through and reassign these at 0. That's the problem with putting them in the function, is every time the function reruns, these get set to 0, and we want these to increment and finally get up to 3. So we're going to set these here, and then the loop will keep running in here, and it'll ignore these, and it'll keep updating the points. Now for the while loop, for the condition, I put in a condition for c points is less than 3 and u points is less than 3. So while both of those are less than 3, for the other one, I think it could be or. So at the end, these could be or. So once one of them gets to 3, then the game's over. But up here, they both have to be less than 3 for the game to keep playing. So that's what we're doing. And we still have our input. It's still choose rock, paper, scissors. We're still putting it to lower. So if you would, the idea initially was that if you put in a capital R rock or something, and it wouldn't matter if you did a lowercase. And then here's the random number that's coming. It's still 1, 2, 3. So it's still going to be rock, paper, scissors. So if rock meets rock, it's a tie. If rock meets paper, rock loses because paper covers rock, and if rock meets scissors, rock crushes scissors. And then the same thing goes with the P's, and the same thing goes with the S's. If the computer wins or you lose, the computer gets a point. If you win, you get a point, and if there's a tie, then nobody gets any points. And here's where we're incrementing the points. So the fact that the points are assigned outside the loop and they're being incremented inside the loop means that they should keep that point total going on, and it shouldn't be a problem. So as we go through here, we start off with, if you just put in R or whatever as the first thing, and we'll test everything and make sure everything goes okay. Because if you don't put in R and you don't have R matching 1, R matching 2, then it'll check if you have P, and if you don't do that, it'll check these. So it'll keep going down here. And again, we're breaking it once they get to 3, and then it's going to say game over, and it's going to have U points, because remember, that's the variable for U points. And the original one I had YOU, but that's going to be the variable for U points, and then computer. So it's going to give the score. And also, one other thing that was, it took me a little while just to make sure I got this right. I'm printing the score here after all 9 of the statements. So if whether you tie, whether you lose, whether you win, tie, lose, after all of these, I put a print statement here so that whatever happens, it's still going to print whatever the score is. So just to run this through, I'm going to run it now. And if I start off, I'll start off with P. I'll try P here. And if I put in P for paper, it's a tie. Nobody gets any points. I'll put in P again. It's a tie again. And you lose, scissors cuts paper. And right now it has you lose, scissors cuts paper, U0, computer 0. So that's actually a problem. I lost. Computer should have got 1 here. So we have to check something here. I see what the problem is. It's not, I had started a version and it didn't update. So actually I don't have the points in here. You can see I only have the points in the rock. I don't have the win points under here, and I don't have the computer points under here. So I'm using paper, and there's no points working here. So let me let me stop this and let me reset it, and then I'll stop the video and I'll put these back where they need to be. Okay, so I have them in here now. So just so you follow the sequence, every time you lose, computer gets points. Every time you win, you get points. And here I win, I get points. Here I lose, I get points. And there should never be points with a tie. Nobody gets points with a tie. Here I lose, computer gets points. I win, I get points. And no points for a tie. And again, what's restarting this, instead of another function to restart it, what's actually restarting it this time is the loop. It's going through the loop. So if points never get to 3 down here, it's not going to break. It's just going to keep going on. It's going to get to the end here. And because it's a loop, it's just going to go back to the beginning and give a new input. So that's what's making the new input. In this case, it's not necessarily running the function over and over. In this case, the function runs one time. Here's the function call, play RPS. And it runs one time, and then it gets sent into this loop that keeps going on and on and on until someone gets 3 points. And it keeps delivering the score right here. So just be careful with this one. This print statement is after the 9 elifs, or the 8 elifs and the 1 if. It's after those, and it's not indented. So it's not after just one of them, it's after all of them. So it just runs as a separate statement. After it checks all those, it's going to print it, and then it's going to go back and check this one. Remember, we made this one as another little group, so that's why this is a separate if-else. Even though we don't have an else on that one here, we have an if-else here. So this treats this like a separate little family of if-else after it prints out the points. So it will print out the total points and then say game over the points again. That's the only thing that happens at the end. I think we'd have to go and troubleshoot that, but that's not a big problem as far as having to deal with that. So we could troubleshoot that if we needed to. So that's what we're doing there. Again, let me just show you this one more time. We're importing random. We're defining a function called play RPS. We're not sending any arguments, and we're not setting any parameters in here. We're using local variables, so we're not going to use any global variables at all. And that's kind of more helpful to use with a function. You don't want to be having loose code outside of functions when you're using functions. The whole idea is you keep everything inside here. So we could keep these inside here by using a loop. Now, whether that's more work or less work, that's up to you to figure out. At least we don't have any kind of stray global variables. They're all defined in here, and then they're updating in the loop and not having to go back here and get reset to 0. And then everything else is like the first time. So again, I do have videos for the 2019 version of Spring where it was using 2 functions. This one is only using 1 function, and it's putting it in a while loop. So that's what's resetting it. Instead of calling a bunch of functions inside here, the other one calls functions after all these things. We're not doing that. We're putting it in a while loop. So that might be, there's probably less code altogether. I have like 45 lines of code here with a couple spaces and a couple comments, so it's probably a little bit shorter doing it this way, and since we've been working more with while loops, that might make sense. So that's EX14, rock, paper, scissors. I'll let you look at the code here quick in case you need to do this, and I'll play it one more time because that's a lot of fun. I'll play rock this time, make sure everything's working. Rock crushes scissors, I'm up 1-0. It's a tie. Paper covers rock, I just lost, it's 1-1. Now I'm down 2-1 because paper covers rock. I'll go with rock again. And I lost, paper covers rock, computer has 3, and then it says game over, you won, computer 3. So it does say the score right here, and then it has the game over score. So we could troubleshoot that if we didn't want it to do that, but that's actually what we want right there. So it stops the game right there at 3 when someone gets to 3 out of 5, and then it says game over, and you won, computer 3. So that's the way it works, and that's rock, paper, scissors. This is the first part. Here's looking at line 3 through 23, and again, all these if, elifs are all the same. So that's the way that works. These have variables in them in the curly brackets. We use F strings. I even put a line break. That /n is a line break, so that's what puts the space over here. And we have a break to break it. If the game's over, that breaks it. And we have a continue down here, so that if you enter the wrong thing, it'll go and start you over again. It'll continue the loop once again. Otherwise, it'll keep going on as long as both of those are under 3 points.